Oh my goodness. We're doing it. This is the big day. The first podcast that I'm actually going to end up posting. Now, with that comes a little bit of nervousness, but I have to remind myself this isn't the first rodeo I've been through. I am quite good at the skill of just sitting here and yapping and talking, and I've done it probably over 50 times by now in this short span. So what's one more in the bucket? Just because, I don't know, it's a little more public, but man, who cares? At the end of the day, I'm having fun. The only thing I'm worried about is it might start raining on me, and I might cry if that happens. So, to start it off, we are going to be talking about a topic that is probably the core of how I have started changing my life. Some of the most drastic measures I've taken in order to create the most impact, the most positive change within my life has been a mindset shift of accepting the uncomfortable, of accepting responsibility, being okay with it, actually loving uncomfortable situations, loving having more responsibility piled onto me. And this isn't something simply done as just saying, okay, yeah, sure, I love responsibility, or sure, I can be fine with uncomfortable situations. It takes a lot more than that. And as the rain starts to pour down on me, I think I'm going to continue, keep pushing through until it really starts to pour. Then I might have to pause it. But that uncomfortable feeling that we get, we're almost taught in society to push away from that, to wait until the moment feels right, to put our foot in the game. But I don't think that is actually beneficial over the long term. Short term, sure, it saves you from feeling stressed or feeling overwhelmed from a situation. But in the long term, I believe it leads to more stress, a stress that hits deeper, one that is truthfully rooted in your soul, because you never end up starting the thing, or you realize your potential isn't fully there. There's so much missing that you could have had. And that is a stress and overwhelm that I had lived with most of my life. I believe everyone has this, even if you're at a young age. I'm still in my teenage years, but if you're able to take a little step back and realize, no matter if you're 50, if you're 60, 70, or if you're 20, or 15, or 10, your life is still important, and all those ages think about their lives. You might not see or believe that a 10-year-old's walking around with a great perspective of how he's living, but really he is. He might not even realize that himself, and it's just simply because of the way 10-year-olds express themselves throughout the day. But they have a incredible grasp on what the heck's going on. And so if they're told again and again, if you're uncomfortable, just, skip out on it. And especially when it comes to doing your own things, there's so much leniency when it comes to the self. Respecting the self gets thrown on the back burner. I believe in our culture there is sort of a sense to, get up and push through that uncomfortability when it's for the big man, when it's for someone else. But when it comes to yourself, are you really giving yourself everything that you can? Are you putting in as much effort as actually is possible? One great example is if you had made a promise to a friend and something got in the way, something made it so where you had to put extra effort in, or it was a little more time than you initially anticipated, and so you just don't end up doing it at all. would you find yourself a loyal friend in that situation? Would you have respect for yourself? If it was switched around and a friend made a promise to you and they just didn't show up, and the only reason was, oh, I wanted to sleep in and this and that and this and that. Okay. Well, are you actually going to continue to have a good relationship with that friend? Are you going to end up trusting them when they come and talk to you and say, yeah, I'll do this for you, I'll do this? Are you going to really put your word or put your trust in their word? I would say not. But I believe if you were to switch that situation to your own self, something that happens again and again is you make a promise to yourself, you say you're going to show up, and it doesn't end up happening. I feel the majority of the population has this situation. They make a promise, something gets in the way, usually a small thing. Sometimes there's big things, but it's usually a small thing that gets in the way, and you end up not showing up for yourself. And so this relationship you have with yourself ends up breaking down more and more every single time you do this. And the vast majority of people simply live like this. This is the normal thing. They are maybe able to make a promise to someone else to show up for their boss or for their teacher or for their mom, for their best friend. But when it comes to themselves, their own priorities, if those are even realized in the first place, they just don't end up showing up. And there is no pressure almost for them to show up. There is no backlash for the fact, because that has to be created internally. And of course you don't want to have more backlash in your life. Of course you don't want to have more authority beating down on you. But really, I believe when that authority comes from within and you are able to have that authority over your own self, you actually start to like responsibility. Now, it takes a lot of time, a bunch load of time. I'm still working in the process of switching this perspective fully. It's kind of hard to put so much on your plate and say, yeah, do it with a smile on your face. Be happy about it. Be happy that there is so much work to be done, that there's so much cut out for you. But it's something I basically force myself to do every single day. And you do have to force it in the beginning because it won't come naturally. But at the end of it, it will start to feel like the most natural thing. Yeah, why don't I want more responsibility? Is a question you'll start asking yourself. Now that might sound like something rhetorical or something sarcastic to the old version of you. But this new perspective, this new outlook that you have in life, you will start asking, okay, why do I not just want more and more responsibility? Because responsibility, in the right sense, is exactly what life is. I would almost 100% say that everything beneficial in life, everything that is truthfully meaningful, is attached to the same level of responsibility. You think of having children and just the meaning that it brings to people. And you hear parents describe that it was the most life-changing experience that they ever had, the best thing that ever happened. Well, why is that? Because when you have kids, you also have a buttload of responsibilities tacked onto that and no way to get out of them. That is why having children or even having pets feels so rewarding, feels so life-changing. It is the responsibility. You can have a dog that you have to feed and take out and take care of, take to the vet, make sure they got everything, and that's all the responsibility. That's what makes a relationship strong in the first place. If you have a stuffed animal and it just sits there, sure, you can go up and cuddle with it. Sure, you can pet it and do everything else you can do with a dog, but there's no responsibility attached to that. And so that relationship just isn't the same. And you look at children's toys, they're almost trying to put responsibility within them. A Lego set, well, you got to build it before you can play with it. That's a little responsibility there. A baby doll that you have to feed or it cries, or the weird ones that you got to change the diapers and everything. So there is just kind of this human nature is the fact that when we have responsibility at our feet, that is where all of our fulfillment ends up coming from. But at the same time, we try to push that responsibility away, put it off, see it as something negative, as not a part of the whole, but rather just a subset that we can kind of sneak around and avoid. This is the epidemic of the iPad kids, which isn't the kids' fault. It's the parents who don't want to face on the responsibility of a kid who has questions, wants to talk, has a lot of energy. So they stick them on an iPad, distract them so that they can, do whatever and live in even more stress. But they are putting off the responsibility, maybe because they weren't ready for it yet, in order to save themselves the uncomfortability of the moment. And that really weakens that relationship, that reward that you get from it, the actual fulfillment that comes with raising children. Or you can put this to literally anything. Having your own business feels so rewarding because if you do it right, you are putting in most of the work. You have most of the responsibilities. Why does it not feel the same way if you're working at McDonald's and you're just kind of doing what you're told? You have a little bit of responsibility to show up and get the things done, but you don't have to figure out what needs to be done. You don't have to figure out the perfect cooking time, temperature for the French fries, and someone else has done that. You just show up. Why is $15 an hour made at McDonald's feel a lot less fulfilling than $15 made from hard work, from your own business, from figuring out something that's important to you? Well, it's because the responsibility that is tacked on with all of that actually ends up creating why it's meaningful in the first place. And this is a hard truth to just swallow. It's kind of a big pill. It's one of the biggest hurdles you might get over throughout life, is telling yourself, okay, I have to face responsibility. I have to face an uncomfortable time. I have to put more and more on my plate. It's almost told the opposite. And I think the caveat here is, yes, simply putting more and more on your plate isn't going to help, but putting more of the right stuff and removing less and less, removing more of the wrong stuff for you is going to be the recipe for success. You can't simply just pile on more responsibilities that are meaningless or external, that have no actual use to you in your life. If you are simply filling your life full of responsibilities at work, or filling yourself with responsibilities to appease other people, well, you become a people pleaser, or the teacher's pet, or the boss's pet, and you're just putting on the wrong responsibilities. That's why it doesn't feel fulfilling. It's because there's no reason to be necessarily doing them in the first place. There is no connection to your actual purpose in life. The actual meaning isn't behind them, and so you're just filling your plate full of dookie. You don't want to choke that down. But if you fill it with actual good quality, grade A entrees, it's going to be a lot of work to get all of that down, but it's going to feel good. I'll tell you, it will. At the end of it, it will feel good to be in front of all of that work, or rather behind it. As you stand in front of it, and while you're in the middle of it, It's not going to feel that good. It is going to feel overwhelming, stressful. It's going to push you to your limits in one way or another. And yet, you just have to get used to that feeling. And that is kind of hard to start out with when you have, a so-so track record with keeping a promise to yourself. Because at the end of the day, your boss might force you to finish the report. Your teacher might force you to write this assignment. No one's going to force you to do the things that end up actually making your life better. No one's going to force you to get up and go to the gym or wake up and spend some time thinking about your life, meditating, or creating your business. No one's there cracking the whip on you. And so you have to come in and start being your own authority, which is a skill that just hardly is taught anymore. And that is kind of my petition here, is to help more and more people become their own authorities. It's so that they can take control over their own lives. That life doesn't become a lottery ticket of, oh, will I succeed or will I simply be one of the others? It becomes an actual guarantee. Okay, if I just put the work in, which I have a good track record now, I know what I am capable of, I'll just end up achieving it at one point or another. I will stand there and look at my life and see nothing but the actual work I've put in and the benefit that's come from that. And it's not a guess anymore. That's a really, it's a feeling that just lifts off of the soul. Once you have that, which takes a lot of effort to get to, it relieves all of this lifetime anxiety that I feel so many people have, especially if you're around my age, where the paths are kind of, thankfully, unlimited. We can go and start working anywhere or studying anywhere, trying new things, having free time. That's the benefit of kind of being at this age and not having one certain thing forced over you over the other. If you are able to be your own authority within that situation and realize all of the options that are out there, and then also realize how many of those options will absolutely not work out for you. How many of them will put you in the imprisonment that you kind of, if you start looking around, you might see how many people are just feeling trapped in their situation. And how many people, if they truthfully had to answer from a form of their higher selves, if you just ask them, do you feel fulfilled in life? Do you feel like you're doing enough day by day to make impact in this world? How many of those people could actually truthfully answer that with a yes? I do not think it's very many. And that's my petition here. Once again, I'm trying to bring some change in the people. I am on this journey, and I hope to get as many people on the trail behind me. Just, we're all running towards the same goal of fulfillment, which looks completely different for every single person. Everyone has their own purpose, their own meaning in life. And those are thousands of different trails. And if that was realized in every single person, if you could walk up to any given person, man or woman, whatever, just sit down with them and ask them, what is your purpose in life? What are you here to do? What's your meaning? And they could truthfully answer that with depth and understanding. And you yourself could reply with, okay, well, this is my meaning. This is my purpose. I know what I'm here to do. I know what I'm waking up and doing every single day. I know what my direction is. If you could answer that, how would you feel? Amazing. I can tell you, I can answer that question now. It's freaking amazing. It's the most, indescribable feeling where you just lose all sense of who am I? And it starts to become clear. And it becomes a direction that you follow. It's not a to-do list. Finding your purpose isn't simply marking down the tasks of your day, but it is direction that the majority of the things I am doing are leading me towards this, are pushing me in the direction that I need to end up being at. That's what purpose does. And if everyone could answer that, where would the world be at? That is just my pondering moment that I just keep coming back to again and again and again. So how do I make my change within it? Well, my purpose is to, at least a very big part of it, is helping people find their purpose, helping people along this path to start to recognize what actually is important to them. Not just what's going to make them money or what's going to look good on the resume. What is going to make you feel fulfilled at the end of the day? When your head hits that pillow and you go to sleep, what is going to relieve all the stress, all the overwhelm? What is going to let you have a restful night's sleep so you can wake up and work your butt off once again towards something that actually holds meaning? It's a humongous question to answer, and it doesn't come in a one sentence form. It is a literal novel that you are writing to yourself in order to figure all of this out. But at the same time, it's who you are. It's the most unavoidable question within life is, what is my purpose? And yet, people look at you crazy when you ask them that. They look at me crazy when I explain that I know mine. And it's a little unfortunate, but I believe real change can be made. So, if you found this interesting and want to kind of keep in this mindset, this space of figuring out what life is about, more than just the finances, the cars and the houses, but actually who you are as a person, well, give me a little subscribe. You can leave a comment and let me know what you thought about it, what your thoughts on the situation are, whether positive or negative. I love to hear about anyone who's just excited about life, passionate about finding these answers out. And yeah, that's about it. So I will hopefully see you guys next week. But it was a lot of fun, and the rain's really pouring right now. So I'm going to get inside before I get soaked. Bye-bye.